Hello Rayclast! Welcome to the Path of Exile build guide for the Hypercleave Berserker. This is a Marauder build for Ascendancy utilizing the Berserker subclass. This build focuses on achieving high DPS with a very fast attack speed to take advantage of a combination of the Berserker passive Cloaked in Savagery and the Keystone Vaal Pact. The idea of this build is to take damage to survive by maintaining over 100% lifesteal nearly all of the time. The build has a very high clear speed and high survivability when played correctly, but it is not super budget friendly. I was able to gear up easily because I played for many hours in the first few days of the Perandus League when making currency is very easy. If you are a newer player without the know-how to accomplish this, you may wish to look for a build which is less gear dependent. For this build, we will start by discussing the unique combination of mechanics which may make it different from anything else you've seen before, including choices of unique items. Then move on to the passive tree and gem links, and finally cover what you want to look for in the rest of your gear slots. As a final note during the introduction, this build is most appropriate for softcore leagues. We intentionally take large amounts of damage which helps us stay alive through lifesteal, but this does make us susceptible to the occasional true one-shot, so I would stay away from hardcore with this build. I've already mentioned the main passive combination which this build uses to stay alive. This is the combination of the Berserker passive Cloaked in Savagery and the Keystone passive Vaal Pact. Cloaked in Savagery gives us an absolutely insane 100% lifesteal as well as a very large damage boost whenever we take more than 20% of our maximum life in a single blow. Now 100% lifesteal sounds amazing, but if you are getting hit for more than 20% of your life, then it may not be enough to keep you alive if you are running into the leech cap, which is very limiting even with the bonuses granted by the minor nodes in the Berserker subclass. This is where Vaal Pact comes in. It allows us to take full advantage of our huge lifesteal for the small price of removing our standard life regeneration. Next up is our choice of unique items. The first one is Abyssus. This item is absolutely perfect for this build. It is the largest DPS boost you can get for any melee crit build, and the extra physical damage taken, which most builds see as a downside, is a boon for us, as it helps us maintain a high uptime on our Cloaked in Savagery buff. The other unique item we use is the Snakebite Gloves. The main reason we choose Snakebites is because as a crit-based Marauder who needs to path all the way over to Vaal Pact, as well as grabbing some AoE nodes to improve our clear speed, we simply don't have many extra passive points to dump into accuracy. With 7 frenzy charges, Snakebites give us a whopping 42% accuracy. This is worth several accuracy nodes on the tree. On top of this, they also give us a large 14% attack speed boost, as well as making our attacks poison enemies when we're at full frenzy charges, which allows us to shred through map bosses even faster. Finally, you may notice from the video a curse on enemies which you rarely see and may not even recognize. This is the Poacher's Mark curse being applied with Blasphemy. Poacher's Mark, along with our main attack skill Cleave, is easily one of the most underrated gems in the game. Even with Snakebites, our accuracy is still pretty poor. But Poacher's Mark fixes this issue completely by giving cursed enemies 50% less evasion rating, meaning that they are twice as easy for us to hit. On top of that, it also generates frenzy charges from killed enemies, which is big for us because we don't want to run Blood Rage due to having no health regen from Vaal Pact. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, Poacher's Mark doubles Flask charges received from killing cursed enemies. This means we very easily maintain 100% uptime on all of our utility flasks and can spam them to our heart's content. The final unique aspect to this character is the use of Cleave, a very powerful and woefully underused attack gem. It functions very similarly to Reeve, attacking in an arc in front of your character. Yes, Cleave's radius is smaller than Reeve's, so you can't hit enemies from as far away, which may result in slightly slower clear speeds. But in my opinion, Cleave more than makes up for this in other ways. For starters, Cleave hits in a 180-degree arc, as opposed to Reeve's 135-degree arc. This means that while it may not reach as far, Cleave is able to hit more enemies with a single swing if they are surrounding you, and that is perfect place for this build since we want to be hit. Second, Cleave can hit with 2 weapons at the same time, and the crit chance for each weapon is rolled independently. What this means is that we crit more reliably at lower crit chance levels. My character has around 50% chance to crit with each hand. This means that on each cleave there is a 75% chance that at least one of my swords will crit. With the massive crit multiplier we have from Abyssus and dual thrusting swords, we generally only need one weapon to crit to blow up most packs. With Reeve, you would need to actually get that 75% crit chance on your main hand to have the same level of reliability. Next, Cleave simply does far more damage than Reeve if you are able to find two good weapons. If you are dual wielding two weapons with the same DPS with Cleave, it will effectively deal 164% of the base damage of one of the weapons at level 20, while Reeve tops out at 123% base damage. That being said, if you do want to build this character on a smaller budget, Reeve may be a good option as you will only need one good weapon plus your choice of offhand. Lastly, Reeve has the problem of building stacks and needing to maintain those vaal Reeve stacks for large AoE. While it certainly does give you giant clear speeds by letting you hit pretty much the entire screen, it can be a pain if your stacks fall off, and sometimes you may not be able to maintain them all the time. Cleave has its full AoE right off the bat. Now, let's quickly go over the passive tree, both for the leveling process as well as the final version, before moving on to talk about specific gem links. If you have ever tried to level one-handers at the start of a new league before, you'll know it's a total hassle, so when first leveling this character, I recommend going two-handers with Resolute Technique. Obviously we're starting as the Marauder. First we'll go down through these life and armor nodes, then up through Heart of the Warrior to Born to Fight. Eventually we'll be going through the one-handed wheel here, but for now we'll go around the two-handed side. Use whatever two-hander you can find at the time that's best. I got lucky and while leveling this league found a Geofreeze and then managed to get a really nice rare maul from somebody on POE trade for 1 chaos. Next we'll go around these life and elemental resistances and grab Resolute Technique. From there, we'll head on up to grab more life through Devotion, Strength, go through Elementalist. This doesn't add much damage for us right now, but the resists are very helpful, and we need it to go to Amplify. I did most of my leveling on this character with Sunder, one of the new skill gems in Ascendancy, and it proved to be very smooth for leveling, so I would definitely recommend it. Next, we'll go through Retribution, and then down into Discipline and Training for some more life. At this point, if you feel like you're having trouble surviving, you can start heading down this way and going for more life, or you can do as I did and grab the Mace Wheel. Ignore these back two nodes as they're not particularly important, and you mostly just want to get these notables for their large damage boosts. From there, you want to head down around this side of the Marauder and over to Unwavering Stance. We'll be using this in our final build, and it's also very useful for leveling. It's especially important in the final build because we're intentionally taking large chunks of damage to activate Cloaked in Savagery, and we can't afford to be stunned as attacking for lifesteal is what keeps us alive. From then, we'll head on over to the Duelist area, and for this leveling process, we'll grab this two-handed wheel around Destroyer, over to Master of Arena, and through Bravery over to Art of the Gladiator. This will help us move a lot faster as we're leveling, as it ignores the movement penalties from armor. Next, we'll grab Golem's Blood and start heading over towards the Ranger area. We won't be picking too much up in the Ranger area for now, and you can either continue on your pathing or grab some more life depending on how things are going. Eventually we will have thick skin. From there, you want to start heading towards vaal pact. As soon as you hit vaal pact is about when I think it's okay to make the switch to your double one-handers. This is also about when you should be beating Cruel Izaro, at least it was for me. We have 85 points used, which means we're level 65. It seems high, but I had a rough time with Izaro and wasn't able to take him down until then, and that's when I switched to vaal pact and my one-handers. Once you do get vaal pact and decide to make that switch to one-handers and beat Cruel Izaro, which you should do before making the switch as that's what will give you your lifesteal, you can spec out of these mace nodes, spec out of Resolute Technique, and go into these crit chance nodes. Then you can spec into Strong Arm and spec out of the Butchery side of the wheel. Next, we'll go back down to the Duelist area and spec into the Dervish dual-wielding wheel, which will then let us spec out of the Destroyer wheel, and at this point we'll also take out Master of the Arena and this life node. You can keep the life node for now if you want, but we don't really need it in the final build. At that point, we will continue heading up into the Shadow area to go through Coordination and grab Blood Siphon, then up into Trickery. These intelligence on these nodes are important as they allow us to level gems like Increased Area of Effect as well as our Blasphemy higher. From there, the choice is up to you how exactly you want to proceed. I grabbed Twin Terrors for more crit, and then since this is softcore, I focused on damage a little more before filling out the rest of my health. meaning I grabbed these crit nodes here, then headed over to these dexterity nodes for frenetic, grabbed Blood Drinker finally, grabbed these 2 nodes at herbalism, grab your frenzy charge here, and your frenzy charge here. This is 103 points, which puts us at level 83. At this point, I'm pretty much grabbing jewel slots. I'm currently level 87 on the character, and working my way up towards level 88 and hope to hit 90. That's my goal for the character this league. So at this point, I have 2 jewel slots, and if you look around, you'll see that we're right next to a couple more. You can do 2 more points for a jewel slot there, as well as 2 more points for a jewel slot over here, and even 2 more points for a jewel slot here. Jewels are very powerful, so when you're next to this many slots, I recommend grabbing as many jewel slots as possible once you've filled out the main requirements of your build. For passives from the bandits, in normal we went for oak for the 40 life. In cruel we decided to go with Creighton. This is because I knew we would be using an Abyssus, which adds a lot of flat damage, as well as flat damage on our jewelry, so attack speed is good for applying that more often. In Merciless, we went with Creighton again for the extra frenzy charge. As far as your Ascendancy, in normal I recommend going for Pain Reaver, as that lets you get cloaked in Savagery and Cruel. The last node we want to get is Crave the Slaughter. Now you certainly could get Crave the Slaughter in normal, and the 25 attack speed would likely be better for the leveling process than the 2% life and mana leech, but as I said, we want to be able to get Cloaked in Savagery and Cruel so that we can start up our instant leech shenanigans. That's it for the passive tree, now we'll move on to discuss gem links. For our main attack, we are running Cleave linked with multi-strike, melee physical damage, added fire damage, increased critical strikes, and increased area of effect. For its Ziri or other particularly tanky enemies, we swap increased area of effect out for concentrated effect. If you are only on a 4-link, I would recommend dropping increased area of effect and added fire damage. For a 5-link, I would leave out increased area of effect. I use the Celestial Justicar Divination cards to get an early 6-link this league. For auras, we run Hatred on top of our Blasphemy Poacher's Mark combo. For movement, we use Whirling Blades linked with faster attacks, blood magic, and fortify. Those are all the main setups. After that, you can use whatever sort of utility links you like. I have an unlinked Frenzy in case I want to generate charges against a boss with no adds. I also run Cast When Damage Taken with Molten Shell and Immortal Call linked to increased duration, a setup which I strongly recommend. And finally, I run another Cast When Damage Taken setup with my Ice Golem and a Blade Vortex plus Power Charge on crit combo, which does a surprisingly good job of keeping me at 3 power charges a lot of the time. Now let's discuss the other gearing choices. Other than the Abyssus and Snakebites, I am using all rare items. You could certainly run a unique chest of your choice, but getting a 6-link is more important, and a lot easier with the Celestial Justicar than trying to get a 6-link unique. Focus on getting as much resist as possible on your chest, belt, and boots. This will allow you to pick up more damage on your jewelry. Don't worry about getting move speed on your boosts, as you will be whirling everywhere anyways, and you can get some sick boots for very cheap if they don't have any move speed. On your jewelry, you again want life and resist, but also try to grab as much flat physical damage and crit as possible. You will also want to get intelligence rolls on a couple of pieces, as they will allow you to level your blue gems up to 20. Finally, for your weapons, you will want to get thrusting swords with as much physical DPS and crit as possible. Note, however, that you will want to stay away from the slower bases. They may have nice DPS numbers themselves, but a faster sword with lower DPS may give you more total DPS as it will take better advantage of the flat damage added by your Abyssus and jewelry. For flasks, I'd recommend taking your pick from all the new utility flasks that are available, and change your flasks up depending on the content you are running. You can see some of the flasks that I use in different situations here. As a final note about playstyle, you can see from the video that the general idea is to simply whirl into a pack, cleave once or twice, then whirl into the next. Remember that with increased AoE linked, your cleave has a very long reach, so if you are scared that a particular enemy may be able to one-shot you, you don't have to take damage from them. You can just take them out at the edge of your cleave and avoid the hits. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found the guide helpful. Like and subscribe for more content, and you can find the forum thread with a passive tree and all my gear linked in the video description. See you in Rayclast.